Here we are. And Gabe, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I know I briefly introduced you at the start of the podcast, but for our listeners, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, where you're from, and let's start with your connection to MSU Northern.
Yeah, so I'm a former MSU Northern student. I graduated in the class of 2017 with my degree in, at the time was called health promotion, but has now taken a name change. It's now called integrated health sciences. I made my way to Northern from junior college in California. So that's how I made my way to Northern. My connection to Northern, I played football there and was a student.
Junior college in California. So California's born and raised in California, Central Valley.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about your college search. I know some of folks listening might be driving from campus to campus right now, touring colleges, doing the college circuit. What did your college search look like?
Yeah, so I'm from a really small rural town in California, very similar to Havre in terms of size and, probably population demographics. Uh, I I went to, graduated from high school and, I was an okay student, nothing outstanding. I wasn't getting into Harvard or Yale, but I, applied to some state schools in the state of California. There's a lot of schools in California, a lot of options, but I really wanted to continue playing football. And, I came from a really small school, didn't get a lot of looks, but I found a junior college that was really interesting. The coach, felt like he had a use for me. And so I had got accepted into about four different state schools, but I was still kind of adamant that I wanted to continue playing football. So I decided to go to junior college and kind of skip the 4-year route at first because I still really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I felt a 2-year route would be best for me in California.
Got it. And so you're going to junior college, you're accumulating some credits in state. And then at what point did you say, yep, okay, I'm ready to go 4-year, I'm ready to take these credits and apply them to a bachelor's degree, track program. How did Havre enter the scene? How did MSU Northern get into your world?
Yeah, interesting story. So I played fullback in college. I was an offensive lineman in high school, but I'm only 5'9", so I was not going to play offensive lineman in college. So I started playing fullback in college. And at the team that I was at in Merced, which is the junior college that I went to, the fullback that was there the year before I got there had gone to Northern. So that's how I knew that school existed, because the fullback before me had gone there. So I knew that school existed and the guy before me had gone there. So when it was time to kind of send my highlight tape out or try to connect with college coaches, Northern was always kind of in that conversation. So I knew they used fullbacks because the guy before me went there. And so it was an option for me. And I sent my, highlight video and talked to, several schools. And then a coach had called me and offered me, a partial, tuition scholarship, and, kind of did I ran the numbers. And I was very adamant. I wanted to reduce the cost of college for myself and for my family as much as possible. So, when I was kind of going through those numbers with the football scholarship at Northern, it was going to be significantly less than I would pay for anything in the state of California to just, go to school. So it was kind of it was a financial decision for me. Football was just kind of an added bonus on top of it. And so I didn't even visit the campus. Coach called me. I called my mom and I said, hey, and at that time I called it Havre. I was like, I'm going to go to Havre, Montana.
Yeah.
And so she's like, where? You've never even been out of the state. But I felt like it was a good decision. I talked to the school. I felt like I could get a decent education there. I was like, I've never been in Montana, but I hear really good things about it. So I'm just going to go.
Big Sky Country.
Yeah, I did not know that until I got there. And then I realized why they called it that.
So you didn't visit campus. You didn't schedule a college tour.
Nope, nothing.
Showed up day one. Wow, Gabe, that's impressive.
I showed up the day one with one suitcase. Is all I had. I took a flight and I showed up with the suitcase and got to the dorms.
Now, is this something you would recommend for all students out there? Hey, grab a dartboard, throw it at a map. If it hits Havre, Montana, for those who
Yeah.
Havre, but looking back, would you have done things differently, or was that the right way to do it for you?
No, I can tell you that had I not done 2 years of junior college first, had I gone straight to Montana from California, I would have come back.
And why is that?
Um, I think being from a small town community, there's a sense of home. Um, and leaving, I was homesick. But I was 2 years away from being done. I had a very short time left. So I was able to overcome kind of that homesickness feeling by, putting it in my head like, hey, I'm almost done. I just got to stick it out for 2 years here,
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get over it. Had I been like, oh, I'm homesick, I got to be here for 4 years, I don't know if I would have been able to overcome that. But I was a little more mature. When I graduated high school at 17, had I been in Havre, Montana, away from my parents, away from my family so far at 17 years old, I think it would have been hard for me to stay. But by the time I got to Havre, I was 20, a little more mature, a little more
part of a team.
Yeah, part of a team, a little more independent. So I was really able to overcome that. So I think it kind of depends on where kids come from and kind of their community and their connections to their family. A lot of the kids at Northern are from the local area. So I think that helps, but definitely for kids that are coming from out of state, I think it might be hard for them. That transition might be hard, especially if they come from small communities where they have really close ties.
Mm-hmm. You talked a bit about football,
Mm-hmm.
going to a school. Football seemed like a big part of your decision, but you also talked about integrated health sciences. And when you got to Havre, when you got to MSU Northern, at what point did before we started recording, said, yeah, I kind of realized that I probably wasn't going to play in the NFL, and
Yeah.
I'm 5'5", so you've got a couple inches on me. I realized quickly, okay, the NBA is probably not in my future. Not that I was ever any good at basketball anyway.
Yeah.
But you have these realizations, and then all of a sudden academics becomes a little more important. Can you talk to us when you got to campus and kind of what that looked like and how committed you were to academics, as we talked about just before recording?
Yeah. So, I would consider myself, I was always kind of a mid-tier student. I wasn't some brainiac, but, if I applied myself, I could get good grades. And when I got to Havre, I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school, but when I got to Havre, I wanted to do integrated health science and do what they had called the pre-professional track. I wanted to go to physical therapy school is what I wanted to end up doing. So that's kind of what I talked to the counselors about. And so to go to physical therapy school and graduate within the 4 years, I had to take, physics, anatomy and physiology, chemistry, all these courses that I think required a lot more attention and were much more rigorous. They required labs. I would have to leave practice early to attend, afternoon lab sessions. I'd have to, waking up early in the morning, going to weightlifting, and then going to try to grab a meal before, I have 5 classes throughout the day to go to meetings, to weightlift afterwards. I wasn't getting back to my dorm until 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then I still had homework to do. So at one point, I knew I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to be focused on my academics, but I was really just too tired. So I knew, I have to give up one or the other. Football's been fun, but football was kind of a means to get to where I was at. I never thought it was going to be kind of what I was going to do for the rest of my life. It was just kind of a vessel to kind of take me where I wanted to go. And it ended up bringing me to Havre. And, it had brought me to the destination where it was going to take me. And so it was time to kind of get off and kind of hop on what my next journey was. And that was to really focus on school. And so that's kind of how I made that decision where, I think it's taken me where it's going to take me. School is going to take me where I want to go next. So that was kind of the next thing that I really had to focus on and I put my heart and mind to.
How about the integrated health science program itself? Talk about your experience there.
Yeah. So because I wanted to go to physical therapy, integrated health sciences or at the time health promotion was kind of the route I was going to go. And I was in that route, and there were two professors, Chad Spangler and Peter Hart, that were there at the time. And I really took an interest into some of the work that Dr. Hart would do. He was more of an exercise physiologist and would do a lot of statistics and research work kind of on his own. But I really, really took an interest into some of the stuff he was doing. He was doing a lot of data analyses. And I thought that was so interesting. I'd never been introduced to some of those concepts. And he would slowly introduce them in class, but he wouldn't go into too much depth. And so I would always go to office hours, or just his door was always open, and I'd knock and be like, hey, did you read this research article that came out? Did you see the kind of analysis that they did? Or he would call me and share, papers with me, or share, code like SAS, what we call SAS, it's a statistical analysis software. He'd share code with me or articles about code. And so I really took an interest in his work. So I think he really took an extra interest in me, and was like, oh, this kid is more interested in some of this stuff than I think the rest of the class is.
Right.
So we kind of developed a more personal connection. And then Dr. Spangler introduced me into some of the differences. It wasn't just focused on exercise and exercise science. We started talking about, some of the causes of disease, some of the social factors that influence disease, people's access to healthcare. And we started talking about these things that I had experienced growing up in a rural town, where not having access to a physician is actually detrimental to your health later on in life. And so those were some of the things that I started integrating into, like, oh, there's more to health than just this personal level. There's social factors that influence health. There's environmental factors that influence health. There's political factors that influence the health of people. And that was part of that integrated health sciences program. It was, you got like the exercise of science, biology-based health, but you got a holistic view of health that I think a lot of people aren't introduced to right away. And this one-on-one that I had with some of these professors, because I think I showed a lot more interest. And so I wanted more, and I wanted to work with them. Like, hey, are you working on any projects that I can help you with? Are you doing any data analysis that I can help you with? Because I personally wanted to learn more. And so that was how I used integrated health sciences, and really using the start of kind of those connections is what made kind of leaving that football part easier for me, because this was so fun to interact with many of these professors, Dr. Spangler, who is still there, Dr. Peter Hart, who's no longer there. But it was just such a wonderful experience to do that, and to have classmates that I had another classmate who she had the same interest. And so we kind of partnered up, and we were like Peter's little minions, would run around and, do all these like exercise science projects with him. And so that was really, it was so fun. And I think that that's something unique about Northern, was that closeness with a professor.
Yeah. Yeah. You certainly don't hear that everywhere. You hear that happening everywhere.
No, not at all.
Talk a little bit about Havre, and that was really amazing to hear that. Okay, those relationships can be built at Havre, because like we said, that just doesn't happen everywhere.
No.
Talk about Havre, the place, and how you grew up in a town, it sounds like similar to Havre. When you arrived at Havre and spent 2 years here, what sort of impression did it leave on you when you later went to graduate school, which we'll talk about in a second?
Yeah, Havre is a very unique place. I think anyone from Montana will agree with that. Havre's very unique in its own right, but it's such a beautiful place. The town, when you kind of drive into town, you see that whole big long road when you're driving into Havre, and it's just a small, beautiful little town. And then you have Northern looks beautiful, especially in the winter, but it felt like home. It really did. It felt like my home did back in rural California. The small community feel. Everybody really knew each other. Great hospitality, and I was introduced to so much culture too that was so different than my own. Rural California is while similar in some respects, is significantly different than rural Montana. And so that was a great experience, exposure to cultures that I had never been exposed to. Was so different, having teammates and friends from Canada, having, friends and teammates that were, Native American, American Indian. Those were things, relationships that I didn't have in California. That there's so much culture in Havre, Montana. It really is a melting pot. It's such a wonderful place to be at.
That's great. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you're driving down that hill and you see
Yeah.
the lights of Havre. I arrived, a little bit later, a couple nights ago, and sitting up on top of that hill, it's pretty amazing. I just kind of parked my car and drank my drink and saw. It was really neat. It was really, really special.
Yeah.
Graduate school,
Yep.
life after MSU Northern. Talk
Mhm.
about what you're doing now, what your journey's been, and update us on the life of Gabe.
Yeah, so during my time at Northern, like I said, I got very interested in working with Dr. Hart specifically on, it's like exercise science research. And so, like I mentioned, I was interested in not just the exercise science part, but like these factors that influence people's health that are outside the control of the person. A person can't control their environment that they're exposed to. A person can't control if they have access to a pharmacy, if they have access to a doctor, if they can afford healthcare. Those are factors outside of people's control. And I was like, man, I really like this. This is stuff I want to study. Like, why is people's health being impacted by these things? And Dr. Hart was like, well, if you like that and you like statistics, there's this field called epidemiology or public health that you can really get into. It's a mix of a lot of this understanding at the community level, but a lot of training on statistics and study design and understanding population health. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. That's what I want to do. So I started applying to grad schools, looking up public health programs across the country to do my master's in public health, it's an MPH. It's like an MBA. It's a very specific kind of degree, very organized type of program. And so I wanted to do this MPH. It was a very, very interesting thing for me. And I felt like, I want to do it. So, I was like, I'm coming out of a small school in Havre, Montana. I don't know how attractive I'm going to look as a candidate for master's degree when some of these kids are coming out of, probably, fairly much more well-known institutions than I was coming out of. But that one-on-one experience with Peter Hart, Dr. Hart, I had a lot of coding experience as an undergrad, a lot of research, like abstracts and publication and research writing experience that I got because I got to work one-on-one with him. And so I actually got offered a full research tuition scholarship to go to Baylor. And it paid for all my tuition, everything. I didn't pay a dime. And then it paid me on top of it a living stipend to do, research at Baylor. And they had called me if I would come in for an interview, and they reimbursed me. They paid for my flight to come in, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience to do that. And they were so impressed with some of the work that I had done with Dr. Hart at Northern, the experience that I already had coming in, and what I could probably do for them without needing, a lot of that training. I had some of that experience. So I flew in on a Friday to do that interview, flew back on a Sunday. By Monday, they called me, offered me the scholarship, and there's no way I could turn down a full ride plus a living stipend. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll fly to Waco, Texas. I'll do it.
Wow. Yeah, that's not something you hear every day, that you're offered a full scholarship to attend graduate school. Usually it's the opposite, that, I'm mired in debt after attending graduate school. So
no, I'm in no debt at all.
Wow, that's amazing. And now so Baylor, a success story, of course, and now you're in South Carolina, correct?
Yeah. So now I'm at the University of South Carolina. So after Baylor, I was working with two epidemiologists that were, doing much more intensive research than we were doing at Havre or Northern. And so it got me a lot more exposure. I was on I got to be on research grants that were funded by like Johns Hopkins University and like the Robert
Wow.
Wood Johnson Foundation, the National Institutes of Health. So I was able to be on these much bigger projects, gave me so much more experience. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to study epidemiology. I'm going to do my PhD in it. That's what I want to do. So I applied to a number of schools, and I got into the University of South Carolina and a number of other universities. But here at the University of South Carolina, I was provided an NIH, so the National Institutes of Health, which is like the major funding organization of science in the country. We have a program here where they have a training program. So the National Institute of Health provides a research grant to this institution to train, future scientists in the hopes that, they're training the next generation of scientists. So the NIH
Yeah.
provides the funding to the institution. And so I got that fellowship. So that fellowship pays for all my school, pays for my health insurance, pays for
Goodness.
my fees, and then pays me on top of that. And so I felt like that was really too good of an offer. Again, like I went to Havre. I'd never been to South Carolina, and I agreed to come out here. So I said,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
I'll go. And so I'm now in year 3 of my PhD in epidemiology out here.
Wow. Gabe, congratulations. My goodness, you've figured out how to avoid the college tuition debt each step of the
Yeah.
way. So you're in South Carolina. You mentioned earlier when we were talking, being a little bit homesick, going from California to Montana. It
Mhm.
seems like in some ways that move was a catalyst to get you out of California. Not that, whether you stay in or out, whatever you want to do, but getting you out of California to Montana, it sort of opened up a lot of options for you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you, if you are an out-of-state student and you decide to go to MSU Northern and you survive being at Northern, you survive those rough Montana winters when you're not used to them, you can survive anywhere. And so really, Montana really was that catalyst for me. I got there, I experienced a whole different culture, a whole different world. And I think that part of experiencing that, I knew like, wow, there's this everywhere that I haven't been. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really okay with really making a move anywhere to experience that and to get that lived life experience of seeing what other parts of the country look like.
Sometimes it's putting yourself out of that comfort zone, seeing what you're made of a little bit.
Absolutely. And Havre will do that, especially if you're not, I'm telling you, if you're not from Montana, you're not used to rough winters, you're not used to that stuff. You are out of your element, you're out of your comfort zone. Um, but you just stick it out and you come out a better person.
Yeah. Next time someone says, "Oh, it's a little cold in this room," you sort of chuckle. Try Montana. Get up there.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, my first winter, I called my mom. I was like, I absolutely hate it here. I am so cold. But I was not prepared for those winters. The second year, I had boots. I had a nice big puffy jacket. I didn't realize that my nostrils would stick together in
Yeah,
Montana.
that physically that can happen.
Had no idea that was even a thing.
So if you had to give some advice to a student who's out of the state of California, sorry, I'm going to start over. If you had to give some advice to a student that is living out of state, out of Montana, thinking about coming in state to MSU Northern, what advice would you have for them from kind of an academic standpoint, from putting yourself out of your comfort zone, trying something new? In what ways did that benefit you in your journey from Montana to Texas to now South Carolina, doing all sorts of really amazing things, getting all sorts of cool scholarships? How did that impact you?
Yeah, so I would say MSC Northern is a place where I think the onus is on a lot on you to make what you want out of that experience. Had I not sought out those opportunities with Dr. Spangler and Dr. Hart, I might not be here. Because Havre's a small institution with they don't have unlimited resources to the fancy exercise science machines and technology. That's just the simple fact that they do not have that. But what they do have and what they do provide is a sense of community and these professors are willing to work with you if you want to work with them. And so you can really make out of the experience what you want of it. And so I think being in Montana, knowing I want more and asking for more, I was never denied. It's like, if you want more, we'll give you more. You want more experience, we'll give you more experience. You want to be part of a committee, we'll put you on a committee. If you want to help out with organizing things, we'll let you help out. We have a tobacco task force. It's mostly, faculty, but if you want to be part of it, come be a part of it. Northern was really open to a lot of the ideas I had. We started like a health promotion club, me and a few other students. Like, we wanted to do stuff like this to promote like health on campus, whether that be mental health, sexual health, physical health. They were super receptive to it, open to it, because like I said, Havre is small, so they don't have unlimited resources. So they are open to allowing students to take an initiative and really get experience that, a big university, like, they have a whole department that does that. So, we don't need students to do that. We got people that do this. You don't need to, we have a whole wellness department. We don't need you to do that. But at Northern, they welcome all the help that they can get. And that's a great place to get experience. And you want to work in higher ed, there's probably an opportunity for you to do something at Northern with that.
Yeah.
If you want to do just about anything, and you tell someone at Northern, they will find a way to connect you to someone. You want to start a committee, a task force, a club, an organization. There is a place at Northern to do that. And so it allowed me to develop those skills of taking the initiative that carried on to Baylor. And that's something that I think is very well respected in graduate school, is students taking the initiative. You're now a professional student, you're a doctoral student, you need to take this initiative. And those were skills that I was able to develop at Northern. And Northern was great because it didn't put any barriers in my path to do that. They were receptive to it. They, allowed it and actually supported me in that growth that I had there. So, I would tell young students coming to Northern, if you want to really have a personalized education. And like, when I mean personalized, I think other schools would tell you like, oh, we have a very small to student faculty ratio. Like, even, Montana State or the University of Montana has a fairly small faculty to student ratio, but you still don't develop the personalized education that you do at Northern. And there's students that really need that. And I think it's a great place for some of those students that need a much more personalized and tailored education.
Well said, Gabe. It really is that big fish, small pond mentality, and a lot of schools will preach it, but I think MSU Northern certainly lives it. Anything, Gabe, that I didn't ask you that you were hoping I would ask you about that we didn't cover today, or would you say we covered it all?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, I can even say too, I've spoken still to this day, me and Dr. Spangler still text. We were emailing yesterday. He updates me on his life, what's going on. His kids are, growing up playing basketball, and I was there, going on 5-6 years ago now. So we still to this day have a friendship connection. We Zoom chatted, I think, a couple months ago just to reconnect and like talk. So I think for kids looking for that, that's something that is available at Northern. And Northern is, even from when I left, Northern is not the same anymore. I mean, the amount of grant money that Northern has gotten is insane. They've revamped the integrated health sciences. They have so much equipment that was not there when I was there to improve like their exercise science department. The football field was not there when I was there. So
right. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so there are a lot of amazing changes happening at Northern that I think will make a student experience even better. I had a wonderful experience at Northern. I can't even imagine how good my experience would be if I, were to go there now. So there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth has happened at the university. It's a really exciting time at Northern. They're really revamping things. I think They're, very well known for their diesel technology and agricultural sciences that they have there, but there's so much more at Northern to experience. And I think the more students that realize that, the more those programs can continue to grow.
Well said again, Gabe. This is amazing. You could have my job interviewing folks and chatting about MSU Northern. Really appreciate your time today. If folks have questions, maybe we'll leave some contact info in the show notes for them, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no,
About the
absolutely.
health science program. And then, yeah, any last words?
If there are any students that ever want to pursue public health or pursue epidemiology, of course, feel free to reach out to me. I know that's not something that I had, but I think now there's someone that has gone on to do that, and I'm more than welcome to act as a bridge to bridge some of those connections and help students that want to pursue that and want to improve the Highline community overall.
Great. Gabe, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. This was a great conversation, and hope you have a great day, and best of luck with your PhD program.
Great. Thank you so much. It was really an honor to be on and talk about Northern. It's been a while since I've talked about it, so it was really good to relive some of those memories. I could see
the eyes sparking. Oh, MSU Northern. There we are. Very cool. Thanks
good
again.
Memories. Great, of course.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Northern and Beyond. If you have any questions about getting started at MSU Northern, feel free to contact our admissions office by visiting msun.edu. You can talk with guests, professors, and schedule your campus visit. We know the college search process can be complicated. We're here to provide clarity. So come visit our campus, talk with our team, and experience the remarkable programs happening on Montana's Highline.